Welcome back to Peek into COS. This episode is brought to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast at The Next Us, a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in downtown Colorado Springs. Today, we are joined by Martin Lays, the general manager of one of our most historic lodging properties, the Cliff House in Manitou Springs. Welcome, Martin.
Good morning, Doug.
Nice to have you here.
It's great to be here.
So for our listeners who are maybe unfamiliar with the Cliff House, let's start by talking about what makes it so unique.
What makes the Cliff House so unique? Well, fact one, we are the oldest operating hotel in the state of Colorado, built prior to Colorado becoming a state in 1874. The Cliff House started out as a 20-plus room stage stop, basically, for the mining industry that was booming in the Leadville area, as well as ranchers and so forth that would stay there.
Okay. And what in 1874 was the city of Manitou Springs already established? Were they located called Manitou Springs?
It was not Manitou Springs to my knowledge at that point. It was simply Manitou.
Just Manitou. Okay.
Yeah, Colorado Springs was named primarily for the springs in Manitou, as I understand it.
Right.
And the city of Manitou, if it was a city, if you could call it that at the time, was a bit taken aback by it being used for the city to its east.
Sure.
So they staked claim to the springs and renamed it Manitou Springs. And I think there was a back and forth for several years before it settled on Manitou Springs.
I wouldn't doubt it, because the city of Colorado Springs was established in 1871. We just had our sesquicentennial. And so, there probably is history written somewhere on the... So let's talk a little bit about some of the history of the Cliff House. I mean, and I think that not only I want to talk about the rich history of the hotel in Manitou Springs, but I really kind of want to start with you. I want to put a face on this for listeners. Okay. I know you have been at the Cliff House in different capacities for more than 20 years.
Correct.
But let's talk about how you got into the industry and really what brought you to the hotel.
Oh gosh, I don't want to go back too far.
Okay.
But I'll start with my family purchased and owned a historic hotel in Cripple Creek for a number of years since 1976. We operated that hotel for until 2002, when I found myself jobless. My daughter was working at the Cliff House, and I always give her the credit for getting me my job in 2002 at the Cliff House.
Okay. And what was she doing at the hotel?
Oh, she was a bus girl and a receptionist.
And they said, you should talk to my dad? What was your first job at the hotel?
I was director of finance and HR.
Yeah.
And that encompassed a lot of different things. I kept very busy in that position. And then coming out of COVID, I became general manager.
Sure. You know, I think it speaks to one of the things we talk about in this industry is that sometimes people can come in, be it at a restaurant level or at a hotel level, and though you came in as the director of finance, there are a lot in HR, people look at it as a job. And they don't necessarily connect the dots to think about it as a career. And you have grown at a property, kind of not at just a single property, but you had this family business in Cripple Creek that was a hotel. Now you've worked in basically two hotels, but you've made a career out of it. What advice would you give to somebody who is thinking about getting into this industry and just kind of how to progress?
Well, it is a wonderful industry to be involved with. You know, the people that you deal with, they're primarily on vacation. They're looking for interesting things to do. it gets in your blood, though, working out of a 100-plus-year-old building.
Yeah.
I guess it got into my blood early on, and that's kind of I fell into it via
Family.
that's the way things went.
Right, sure.
Always enjoyed history and loved the history of Cripple Creek. Manitou Springs is equally interesting with its history. And
so let's talk about that. The Cliff House just turned 150 years old. Now, we've only got 30 minutes to do this podcast, but if you were to discuss just a little bit of the history of the property, which you and I have talked about in the past. Of
sure.
Anything that's that old has a fire in it and everything else. But tell listeners a little bit some of the milestone dates of the Cliff House.
I'll try to keep it brief.
That's okay, yeah.
In 1874, it opened in June of 1874. In 1876, a gentleman by the name of E.E. Nichols, Edward Erastus Nichols, purchased the building, and the family owned it for approximately 70 years from that point. In fact, his grandson, Ed Nichols, spent some time with us during our sesquicentennial event on the weekend of June 7th through 10th.
Cool.
And he brought along with him many historic photos from the 1800s when his grandfather owned the hotel and ran it. Then in the late 40s, it was purchased by various groups, and it kind of became a boarding house for several years. In 1981, a gentleman by the name of Jim Morley from San Jose, California, and his real estate group purchased the hotel.
Okay.
And within about a year, the hotel caught a big fire. One of the habitants fell asleep with a cigarette, is the story, and the 4th and 5th floors burned completely, devastated the building. It sat vacant for over 16 years before Mr. Morley took it to himself to rebuild it in its former grandeur, and reopened in 1999, and has gained 4-diamond status ever since then. And we hold on to it today, and we're very proud of that.
Yeah. When people come into the hotel, one of the things that is remarkable, I think, is just walking down that hallway and looking at the pictures, and the fire is just devastated. And I had forgotten how long it sat vacant, but 16, 17 years, that's a long time to hold on to a property.
Right.
But not because you were completely inoperable. It was just basically closed for that long, but it has been restored. So let's talk a little bit about Colorado Springs has long been a wellness destination, and the mineral springs and all the fresh mountain air were considered treatments for diseases like tuberculosis. And I know when Ed Nichols bought the hotel, that was the case. And I think what would be maybe interesting for people to know today is a little bit of history about Manitou Springs, and because you are the iconic landmark from a physical structure standpoint in Manitou Springs. But why do people come to Manitou?
Well, Manitou is, of course, a bedroom community, if you will, for Colorado Springs, but it's also a quirky community. People of all different backgrounds are living in Manitou Springs and make it a very interesting place just from the people standpoint.
Yeah.
Then you have the historic main avenue, which, by the way, the Cliff House is not on the main street of Manitou Avenue, a little offshoot called Canyon Avenue. But the buildings have been retained. They're full of small business shop owners. There's things there that you can find that are unique to your shopping experience. So there's great foot traffic and places for people to just spend the afternoon or the morning going from shop to shop and experiencing the Manitou, the Manitou experience.
Yeah.
We try to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
We offer 2 restaurants and a nice big veranda out front that people like to just sit down, have a drink or a cup of coffee, and soak in the weather.
I think for listeners who may have a perception in their minds about hotel dining rooms, that you don't necessarily, that's not where you want to eat, okay, is that you go to a hotel and you tend to then go out, and there's nothing wrong with that, as you said, but I want listeners to know that I can speak firsthand to really the quality of the food and beverage at the Cliff House. My wife and I have gone over and we've celebrated anniversaries in your dining room. And then there's the Red Mountain Bar. And the Red Mountain Bar is a really unique experience. Upstairs, downstairs, they have outside seating. And it's the only place that I've ever been in town here where I got to eat a yak burger. And what a fun event that was. And I know they're still on the menu. Tell listeners about what a yak burger is like.
A yak burger is a terrific substitute for your regular ground beef hamburger. Mm-hmm. Yak are critters that basically originate from the Nepal area overseas. They are a high altitude creature, and that's why they do so well here in the Colorado Springs area. Just up the pass in Divide, Colorado, there's a gentleman, family actually, that owns a ranch where they raise yak, Bob Burton. We struck up a conversation while dining together in Divide one night, and he ran home and brought me back a couple of packages of frozen yak. Right. And I took it home, tried it. Very interesting, nice flavor. It's a bit sweeter, I would say, than ground beef. It's color. It's a rich red color. Yep. And in fact, that's one of the challenges we have in serving them. If somebody's never had a yak burger and it is delivered to them in that rich red color, they immediately believe that that's
wrong.
Too rare.
Yes,
I don't want a rare burger. And we have to assure them that, no, if we were to make it look like a hamburger, it would be a hockey puck.
Exactly. They warned us and coached us up on that. So for listeners, if you head into the Red Mountain Bar at the Cliff House and you do decide to dare and have a yak burger, don't ask them to overcook it. Just enjoy it, because I can attest it was really good, and there were some great beer pairings with it, and it was fun. And I mean, when in Manitou Springs, have fun, try something a little bit different. Just to even know that the people who live in Manitou Springs are affectionately, we call them Manitoids. And, there is a vibe that just makes it very, very cool. And certainly people will go there to, it's known for the incline. Many people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, many people want to come to Colorado Springs and say, hey, I want to go do the incline. Well, that's a completely different topic, but that is in Manitou Springs. And then there is the Cog Railway, and people who want to take the Cog Railroad up Pikes Peak to go to the top, to the Summit House. That is also in Manitou Springs. So, and Manitou is probably from downtown Colorado Springs, out Highway 24 West. It's about a 15-minute ride.
Not even.
Well,
it depends on the traffic.
Depends on the traffic and
the
season. But yeah, 10 to 15 minutes, you can be in Manitou Springs. So let's talk a little bit about some of the suites? I mean, you can tell people about how many rooms you have and things like that, but you are really known for some unique places that you can stay, and you've had some celebrities there too.
Indeed. We have 55 rooms. No two are alike. We have approximately a dozen celebrity suites. We have many junior suites, deluxe suites. For a 55-room hotel, you can have anything you want pretty much. Our celebrity suites are, believe it or not, named after celebrities or dignitaries. We have the Crown Prince Ferdinand suite. We have the Buffalo Bill suite, the Clark Gable, the Thomas Edison. The list goes on. Henry Ford. And we have an E. Nichols suite as well.
Okay, sure.
These are all people who have appeared in one way or another at the Cliff House over the years.
So pick a couple of them, just some that, and describe to listeners what the experience is like when you walk into one of those unique suites. The TP. Talk about what it's like.
I'll start with the Buffalo Bill suite,
Buffalo
which is quite unique. Step into the room. It's in one of our turrets, so the walls are rounded. But if you look above you, the ceiling encompasses a full-size teepee. So you get the feeling that you're right out there in the plains or in the mountains somewhere in a teepee. Then we have on our 5th floor, there are only 2 rooms. The elevator doesn't go to the 5th floor. You have to take a staircase up. And therein lies our Thomas Edison suite and our Clark Gable suites, both 2 of the top-end rooms that we have in the place. They have substantial square footage, nooks and crannies, 2-person spa tubs, steam showers. They're very lavish in that manner, and so they make a fun stay. We also have, and the suites are scattered about the hotel. They're not all in one area of the hotel. We have the Kathy Lee Bates suite. That's the one who wrote America the Beautiful,
right? On top of Pike Street.
Not the more recent one. They're all decorated respecting that particular individual. And you go into the Clark Gable suite, and there's a large photograph of Clark Gable in the restroom. And I put my mom and dad up in there one night. And my mother's comment the next morning was, it was just kind of odd sitting there on the john and having Clark Gable stare down at you.
That's, well, all right. And Annie Oakley, did she stay at the hotel?
You know, we don't have a suite named after Annie Oakley, and in fact, I researched it a bit this morning on my way here. Buffalo Bill and Annie Oakley, she was a main draw for his Wild West show back in the late 1800s. Now, Buffalo Bill definitely has been to the Cliff House. In fact, it's interesting to note that a granddaughter of his worked for us about 15 years ago, I recall.
Really?
Right. But Annie Oakley, being a main draw to his show, would have most likely set foot in the building.
Sure.
He, at one point, had put on his show right around behind the hotel, and the hotel would, when it was overflowing with guests, they would put tents out behind the building, and in the same area where Buffalo Bill put on his Wild West show.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, you know, Martin, we've talked a lot about the building and the history and the suites, but we know that one of the things that makes any place special is the staff and the people who work there and the experience. Talk a little bit about the pride you have in your staff and what guests can expect from a hospitality standpoint. What is it like to stay at the Cliff House?
Well, I read a lot of reviews, And probably the most common comment that we get from our guests is the fantastic staff we have. That they feel very comfortable. It's if you're there for more than one night, you become friends with the front desk people. The valets are the first people that greet you generally when you pull up in our driveway. And we have one gentleman who's been there longer than I have. He started out as a young fellow in 1999 as a valet. He remains a valet to today. He is a frequent visitor favorite.
Okay. What's his name?
His name is Sean Adler.
Sean Adler.
Sean's been there longer than I have.
Okay.
But others, they're there to please. We're casual. We're not stuffy. I myself sometimes am a bit intimidated by going to a high-scale, lavish hotel and seeing the valets dressed in their suits and everyone is so prim and proper. Well, we're a little bit more relaxed and casual.
It's Manitou Springs.
It's Manitou Springs.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. Well, I think that's something that if you're listening and thinking about the kind of experience that you're looking for, if you've never been to Manitou Springs, it is laid back. It is a casual environment. It's a throwback, if you will. I think of the Royal Tavern, and you walk in there, and you truly do feel like you're stepping back in time. But that's what makes it so cool, to be honest. So I would say that no matter what your itinerary looks like on your visit to the Pikes Peak region, that a trip to Manitou Springs and truly at least a meal at the Cliff House, and then if you can put it into your itinerary and agenda to stay, upgrade and go to a suite and just see what it's like. Do you offer tours at the hotel?
No, unfortunately, we can't do that, particularly this time of year when we are pretty much full every night for over about a 3 to 4 month period.
Okay.
So yeah, we can't do that. But the hallway experience that you spoke about, gives you the flavor of the history and so on. We have on our website, we have 360-degree tours that you can take a virtual tour and get a look at the teepee.
Yeah. And what's the website address?
It is www. This is a difficult one. thecliffhouse.com.
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 All right, so I'm sitting here thinking about walking down the hallway in the hotel. And one of the things that's really unique is the vault.
I knew you were going there.
So if you're taking your own walking tour of the Cliff House and you come and tell people about the vault.
Well, if you catch me in the hall or Carol Hillebrand, our director of finance, my old office was just a bit down the hall from the vault.
Okay.
You can ask us what's in there, and we'll be glad to show you. It is our wine vault.
Right.
We have a selection of 800 wines in our vault, and we hope that you will partake of a bottle or two while you're visiting.
Exactly. And this is not to be confused with the vault retail outlet that's across the street in the old bank, which is worth going to see as well.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go there if you're thirsty for some wine.
That's exactly right. But there is a great store on Main Street on Manitou Avenue called The Vault that we will give a shout out to. So, okay, so before we wrap, I want to take a quick break and talk about some news that's kind of exciting from Visit Colorado Springs. Our annual Crafts and Drafts Passport, which runs through December 31st of each year, is available with more than 20 participating businesses. The free passport gives you access to deals and discounts at craft beverage spots throughout the region. So whether you're a coffee fanatic or love a good IPA, get deals and rewards that really are worth something to write home about. So our passport, it's a great time to check it out. You can sign up for it now at visitcos.com/passport. All right, so Martin, How many years have you lived in the Pikes Peak region?
Well, it starts way back in the 60s when I was a camper at Sanborn Western Camps up in Florissant.
Okay.
My folks used to come up to visit us on weekends, Parents' Weekend, and they would stay in Cripple Creek. In 72, they bought a house in Cripple Creek.
Right.
76, we bought the hotel.
Okay.
So go back that far. That's where it all began for me.
All right. So you will have no problem with these 3 questions.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Okay, challenge.
Now
accepted.
we've already talked a little bit about the quirkiness of Manitou Springs. So I'm going to ask you to use just 3 words to describe Colorado Springs to our listeners.
Bustling. Wow. What word am I looking for? A wide array. That's more than one word.
It's all right. There's a hyphen. It works.
A wide array. Okay, of personalities.
So
and
bustling, wide array, right? Personalities.
And really historic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And historic. Great. What would you say is your favorite hidden gem in the whole Pikes Peak region?
Well, I know what my wife would say, and that would be Rita, the new troll up outside of Victor, Colorado.
Sure, on the cover of our visitor's guide, yes.
And you're asking for the kind of hidden gem.
Yeah, where's your spot to
Where
go
is
to?
my hidden gem? My goodness. Well, it would be the Cripple Creek Mining District.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's known now as kind of the Casino Central.
Right.
But my love for Cripple Creek stems from the rich gold mining history. As it was, Cripple Creek was, to my knowledge, still maybe the second largest producing district of gold in the world.
Mm-hmm. And it's still active today.
Still active today.
Exactly.
Kind
All
of
right.
tore up the hillside, but it's...
That it has. So, is there still something on your bucket list in the Pikes Peak region that you have not done that you're going to tell listeners, this is something I'm going to go do?
I'm a bit ashamed of myself for never having experienced the Royal Gorge.
Oh, to go down in the Royal Gorge Bridge?
I've driven by it a number of times and seen it from the highway. I've been underneath it doing a raft trip below,
right?
But I've never actually stepped on the bridge.
You got to do it. We did a great podcast on the Royal Gorge Bridge, so I would encourage you and your wife to listen to that, and then that'll push you over and say, we've got to go do
You won't get me bungeeing off it.
No need. I'm right there with you. So, okay. So, all right, what would you like to wrap and share with listeners about anything that's coming up cool at the Cliff House, and how can they follow you and just know more information?
Well, I think to make the plug for the Cliff House, one of the things we didn't mention is our variety of entertainment that we offer.
Live entertainment.
We on Thursday nights now for over a year we've been doing karaoke on every Thursday night, and it brings in a smaller, cozy crowd. Generally, some very talented singers, by the way. Also, we have twice a week a classical guitarist by the name of Wayne Hammerstadt. Okay. And if you don't know Wayne and you're in the music world here in this region, I guess you're nobody. We also have brought in some eclectic talents. Michael Galazian comes to mind, and you actually got to experience Michael. Just a unique artist with the guitar. He plays both a 6 and 12 string, and is a great entertainer along with being a fantastic musician. Yeah. We had during our 150th celebration in June, we hosted the Collective Groove, which is a terrific 9-piece band in the region. The Moldy Figs came and spent some time with us when we had Teddy Roosevelt entertaining our guests.
Yeah.
We held a couple of dinners with Teddy Roosevelt, reenactor. I won't call him an impersonator,
Right.
but a reenactor, full of the history from Teddy's standpoint. And he was accompanied by artists in each case. Our terrific Ecuadorian chef put on a great dinner for the folks that attended that show.
That's great.
And I want to put it out there for our chef, Marcelo Baca from Ecuador, who took over as our executive chef about a year ago. And he's been doing a wonderful job changing up the menu. He's a real motivated young fellow.
That's great. Well, that sounds fantastic. And I think that just remind us, it's the cliffhouse.com for the website. And I hope listeners will come and visit in the future and enjoy the history of not only your hotel, but Manitou Springs.
Check us out. And if the yak burger isn't enough challenge for you, try the Rocky Mountain oysters.
There you go. Great. Martin, thanks for being our guest today.
It has been a delight, Doug. Thank you.
My pleasure.